Hey guys, it's me back with another Oilers video. I haven't done one in a while. I was planning on doing a fourth one, just kind of talking about the off season, kind of giving them grades and stuff. But I'm waiting till the training camp starts for the Oilers in order to do that. But yesterday some news came out, and I kind of have to talk about it. First, before we begin, um, I decided that the last three videos that I made, I really haven't worn anything um, to show I'm an Oilers fan. I just kind of said it. Um, and even though the title OFR Oilers Fan Reaction is in the videos, I just wanted to kind of give something to show an Oilers fan. So I am wearing my Edmonton Oilers jersey. This is the third jersey they wore during the 2016, 2000, or actually the 15, 16, and 16, 17 season. And for those of you who wondering who the name I got, it's Cam Talbot's. Uh, I'm a big Cam Talbot fan. I really liked what he did in Edmonton. I know that the past couple of years here didn't go so well for him, but I blame that mostly on the fact that we didn't have a healthy defense core. And forwards who didn't know what they were doing in the defensive zone. More on him. Yeah, I know that he had the first shot of the game is a goal on like 12 or 13 occasions. I know that sucks. That's something you kind of have to blame him for, but for the most part, I don't really blame him for what happened in the past couple of years. But I'm not here to talk about Cam Talbot. I'm here to talk about Jesse Puljujarvi and what came out yesterday. So, it was reported yesterday from I'm assuming it was a reporter in Finland, but he basically wrote this article, and it was a quote from Puljujarvi kind of stood out that I kind of need to talk about. And yeah, let's take a look here. I'm doing it on my iPad because I don't have the quote written down. I probably, again, more professional, but in any case. So the quote basically said, I want to start. I want a new start with some other team. Playing in North America is still my goal. I will stay in. I I don't know where that is. Well, it's in Finland, but it's Oulu. I'll have to look that up online to see how you pronounce that. But it's Oulu. It's Oulu. So I'm gonna say it's like Oulu. Until I have a contract, I will find a place to play somewhere. My body feels like it should, and the operated hip is better than new. He believes he will get traded out of Edmonton by the start of training camp. So, um, let's talk about Jesse Puljujarvi. Jesse Puljujarvi was drafted fourth overall in the 2016 NHL entry draft. It was believed by many of the scouts. Mock drafts, what have you, going into that thing, that he was going to be taken third overall behind Austin Matthews and Patrick Laine. He was the MVP of the World Junior Championship tournament going into that draft year for Finland. And so, he was a very hyped up prospect. He was fat. He had speed, he had size, he had skill, he had all of these elements that really made him a coveted draft pick to have. So when the Columbus Blue Jackets went off the board and took Pierre-Luc Dubois third, Edmonton fans were kind of ecstatic because all of a sudden we have this guy who was projected to go third drop to us at fourth. So we drafted him. And people like to once again put like to list the drafting of Puljujarvi as a smidge on Chiarelli's record here at Edmonton. It's one of the, they like to clamp that in as one of the many failures that Chiarelli had as GM. I don't count that because two reasons. Number one, he fell. And number two, everyone had him going third. Like, the mock drafts, the scouts, everyone was saying the same thing. No one said his hockey IQ was a problem. No one said he didn't play with skilled players. No one said he was a locker room cancer. Everyone was saying that he was a great prospect to have, and any team would be lucky to have him, especially since he was going third overall. So when, of course, he drops down one spot, yeah, of course we're going to take him. His rookie season in Edmonton, or at least the training camp and the preseason, he showed a lot of that potential. I think he was one of our better prospects that season coming into the 16-17 season with the training camps and stuff. He was absolutely on fire, and he absolutely earned his spot. But since then, Puljujarvi has played 139 games in the NHL. He has scored 17 goals and 20 assists for 37 points. So he has 37 points in 139 NHL games. Now, this is the problem, or this is where the problems with the handling of Puljujarvi come into play. I am not going to deny Edmonton mishandled him. They put him into the lineup in the 16-17 season because, like I said, I think he had a strong rookie campaign with the preseason and the training camp. It looked like he was ready for the NHL. And, of course, first NHL game, scores a goal. Perfect. But he ended up playing 28 games in the in his rookie season with the Oilers, scoring 8 points, 1 goal, 7 assists in 28 games. After game 15, it was kind of obvious that they needed to send him down, but they didn't. And as a result, they burned a year of his ELC. So, for those of you who don't know how entry-level contracts work, the NHL has a system in place where you can it's kind of like a try before you buy sort of deal with entry level or with rookies. You have a certain amount of games they can play where their entry level contract, like the money they're being paid on their entry level contract, does not count against your cap. Again, try before you buy. If you send them down to the minors during this period, you basically paid them nothing to play for. Well, okay, you're still paying them the money, but it doesn't count against your cap. Again, try before. It's like a trial run. However, after a certain amount of games have passed, and I believe, if I remember correctly, I believe the number is 10. 10 NHL games have passed. Their entry level contract does start to count towards your cap. So for the first 10 games of a season, you can play a rookie as much as you want. You can give them all the ice time in the world. You can play them, you cannot play them, but as soon as they hit 10 games played, their entry-level contract kicks in. So teams have this trial window where you can look at a prospect and say, okay, is this guy going to, let's see how he looks now, because if he had a good training camp or preseason, we want to see how he looks when the games are real. And you have 10 games to go, okay, is he ready or is he not ready? If you think he's ready, you keep him, and then his entry-level contract counts against your cap. If you don't think he's ready by the 10-game mark, you can send him down, and his contract won't kick in until next season. I think you can only do this for like 1 or 2 years before, regardless of how many games they play in the third year after they're drafted, it will count regardless. But for the first year, for sure, you can have a trial run of 10 games where you can play that player as much as you want, but their ELC does not count towards your cap. So, obviously, playing 28 NHL games, the Oilers wasted the first year of his ELC by playing him 28 games, finally getting the clue that they weren't ready, he wasn't ready, and then they send him down. So, he played. Yeah, so in the 16-17 season, he played 28 games. Again, as I said, 8 points. After they finally got a clue to send him down, he played 39 games with the Bakersfield Condors, scoring 12 goals, 16 assists for 28 points. And that was worth the remainder of the season for Bakersfield. In the 17-18 season, he actually got beat out by Oilers' first-round draft pick Kailer Yamamoto, and he started the year in Bakersfield playing 10 games, going with 1 goal, 4 assists for 5 points. After 10 games, he was called up to the Oilers and played 65 games, where he scored 12 goals, 8 assists for 20 points. So he actually set a career high in 17 in the 2017-2018 season. In the 2018-2019 season, after yet another strong showing at the training camp and preseason, he started the season on the Edmonton Oilers, playing 46 games for scoring 4 goals, 5 assists, and 9 points. He was actually sent down to Bakersfield shortly before Todd McClellan was fired, playing 4 goals, scoring 2 goals, and 2 assists for 4 points. Before he was called back up to Edmonton to finish the remaining 46 games, at which point he suffered a hip injury, ending his season. So that's kind of been his career in Edmonton. So let's kind of break this down a bit. So let's go back to the quote here, because this is a very important quote that I think needs to be said again. So, and of course I close it on my iPad. I'm so stupid. Okay, hold on. Oh, here we go. Yeah, let's go back to the search tab. All right. So, the quote is again, and for those of you who want to check it out, go to the Edmonton Journal the EdmontonJournal.com. This is the main newspaper in the city of Edmonton, Alberta, and this is written by David Staples, who covers the Oilers. And the headline is, "After Puljujarvi's statement, best play for Edmonton Oilers is to have him play a year in Europe." So let's read the quote again. This in from Finnish Hockey Observer, Joni Nieminen. I'm pretty sure I butchered that name. I'm not Finnish by nature, so I don't know how to pronounce Finnish names. His translation of what Jesse Puljujarvi has said to the Finnish newspaper Kaleva. Jesse Puljujarvi tonight to the Kaleva newspaper at a charity game in Oulu. "I want a new start with some other team. Playing in North America is still my goal. I will stay in Oulu until I have a contract. I will find a place to play somewhere." More Puljujarvi from Kaleva newspaper. "My body feels like it should, and the operated hip is better than new. He believes he will get traded out of Edmonton by the start of training camp." So, I'm not going to deny the Oilers have handled Puljujarvi's development poorly. When they drafted him, it was probably another example of them rushing a prospect into the NHL. And okay, I'm going to be frank with you guys. It was kind of necessary. The people have this assumption that the Oilers just pick a player and rush him into the NHL. They said they did it with Taylor Hall. They said they did it with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. I even heard them say they did it with Connor McDavid. And all of these happen as the result when these players get injured. Let me make one thing perfectly clear. When was the last time you heard of a first overall pick sitting out a season the year after they were drafted? When was the last time you heard of a player getting drafted? Let's say hypothetically. Here's a good one. Okay, Jack Hughes, great example. Jack Hughes. He gets drafted in the 2019 NHL entry draft. What sense does it make to have him sit out the 2019-2020 season and have him play in 2020-2021? It doesn't. I can't remember the last time a first overall pick was asked to not play in the NHL for 1 year because reasons. And again, like I said, the only time I've heard them say rush players into the NHL is when players get injured. When Taylor Hall got injured in 2010, people said, "Oh, the Oilers rushed him to the NHL." He was a first overall pick, and he showed he can play in the league, and he still can. Again, I think I've mentioned this before. If not, I've said it on Twitter. Ever since 2010, Taylor Hall is third in points by a left winger behind Ovechkin and Jamie Benn. And that was when 6 of his 9 years in the league were played on Edmonton, who never made the playoffs in his entire time here. Anyway, but there are some examples of. So when it comes to like a first overall pick, like I said, Hall, Nugent, Hopkins, and McDavid saying, "Oh, they rushed him in the NHL," you're not understanding what's happening. But on the other hand, Edmonton sometimes doesn't have a choice. The depth on the wings, as I've stated, is horrendous. It's been horrendous for years. So when you have a player like Jesse Puljujarvi who has all of these skill sets that not only are beneficial to a team, but also he plays a position that fills a position of weakness on a team, yeah, of course you're going to play him, especially if he has a strong showing. Now, in hindsight, and we typical saying, hindsight is always 2020 because you always look at the past and go, yeah, we should have done this, this, or this. Edmonton absolutely should have had him playing in the AHL the entire first season he was here or sent him back to Europe. Absolutely. Edmonton has done their best to squander his development. However, this quote, I, I mean, this is the definition of an entitled hockey player. I, I'm I I'm sure maybe this is the translation coming out in a different way. I'm sure that this is me, just kind of wanting this whole Puljujärvi saga to be done with. But the quote is, let me. I want to new start with some other team. Playing in North America is still my goal. I will stay in Oulu till I have a contract. So again, like I said, I'm all. I don't want to sound like Donald Trump here, but all sides in this saga are to blame. Edmonton is to blame. Puljujärvi is to blame, and Puljujärvi's agent is to blame. The conflicting reports coming out week by week, month by month, are ridiculous. First, Puljujärvi said, "Oh, I'm going to play in Europe." Then his agent said, "Oh, he didn't want to play in Europe." Now he's saying, "I'm going to stay in Europe." Regardless of what Edmonton has done to you, Puljujärvi really has no leverage here. He doesn't have the ability to go, yeah, you guys have to trade me. Put it like this. It's like the William Nylander situation last year. Nylander was demanding a ridiculous amount of money, and Toronto, when it comes to hockey, the GM holds all the cards. Unless your name is like Sidney Crosby or Connor McDavid, or like unless you're like a really elite talent, like some of the better superstars in this league, GMs hold all the cards 90% of the time. So when a guy like William Nylander is saying, I want this amount of money, and the GM goes, well, no, and the player goes, well, I'll show you, I'm going to sit out the season. Look at how many times last year the Leafs were good without Nylander in the lineup. I'm not a Leafs fan, but I live in Toronto, or I live in Ontario, and I do know what goes on with the Leafs. I'm not a Leafs fan, but I know what goes on here. And I know that the Leafs were winning and playing well without Nylander. So the longer Nylander sat going, oh, you guys need me, Toronto kept racking up the wins, and GM Dubas was going, no, we don't. We clearly don't need you. Yes, you can help, but as you can see, we're not helpless without you. And that is the situation that's going on kind of with Edmonton. If Puljujärvi wants to sit out in Europe, that's great. Go ahead, man. If you think that's your best course of action, please go ahead and do it. But you have no leverage here. He has none. He's not. First of all, I am slightly disappointed that Puljujärvi isn't giving the new guys a chance here. We have a new GM who, and I'm not gonna lie, he has turned me around. I was against the hiring. I was against what he was doing with free agency. But as the season inches closer, and I kind of take a step back and look at what he's done, okay, he's actually done a pretty okay job, and I'm a fan now. But we have a new GM who's done some pretty good work, and like I said, I'm a fan now. We have a new coach with some new assistants who has been known to work with young players and kind of help them find their way. And Puljujärvi is sitting here going, I don't want to play for you. You have to trade me. I want to make one thing perfectly clear. And I said again, I'm all over the place. Puljujärvi has no leverage. If he wants to sit in Europe, and again, he said I will stay in Ulu until I have a contract. Puljujarvi, we own your RFA rights for, I think, the next 3 or 4 years. I read somewhere that we hold his RFA rights until 2024 or something. I don't know if that's accurate, but we hold his rights. He can't just go signing a contract with another team unless another team offer sheets him. But his attitude with this quote, and again, I don't know if this is taken out of context, I don't know if it's just the translation coming through, but his attitude is saying, I want out, and you're going to have to I'm going to force you to do it, which is not going to work with a guy like Ken Holland. Ken Holland has been in this league for years as a general manager. He has seen them all come through. He's seen all kinds of players. He's dealt with all kinds of situations. He is a smart man, and he's not going to do this knee-jerk reaction. And you can tell this has been going on since the end of last season, and Ken Holland hasn't done anything. And for once, this is a good thing. Ken Holland has had several opportunities to just throw Puljujarvi away. Just go, hey, random team, do you want a young player who doesn't want to play for us? Then come on down and we'll get you like a third round pick for him or something like that. He's not doing that. And that's good. That is a good thing because Holland isn't dumb. He's not dumb, and he's not going to fall for this grandstanding by Puljujarvi. Puljujarvi is digging himself a grave right now. And the thing is, this is just what the Edmonton media is reporting. It is, we all know that insiders, players, coaches, GMs, and agents have a little inner circle where news travels faster than it goes to the mainstream media. Like hockey insiders like Elliot Friedman get stuff get are told things before they're happening. Like when they say, "Oh, I'm hearing Phil Kessel might be traded to Arizona." 2 hours later, Phil Kessel's been traded to Arizona. Like they know this kind of they get this kind of information early. So yeah, of course this is spreading around the hockey world. If Puljujarvi thinks that putting on a show and saying, "Oh, I'm not going to play for you, you better trade me," is going to make other teams go, "Hey, you want to play for us?" No, it's not happening. Other teams are looking at this and they're going, I don't think I want that player on my team. And like I said, I am fully aware that Edmonton is partially to blame for this. They didn't handle him well. But at the same time, Puljujarvi has kind of been a bit demanding. He's I don't know. I really don't know what to think of this. And I agree with the title. The best course of action right now for Edmonton, let him play in Europe if he wants. If he wants to play in Europe, let him. Don't give him a contract. Don't trade him. Don't do anything. Just so, okay. When he hits UFA status, yeah, then he can go seek employment somewhere else. But until we hold his right, or until we no longer hold his rights, we're in control of his future. If he wants to go play in Europe, go let him. And I know that I know that I've been criticizing the Oilers fan base for ripping on players, and stuff. But when a player is acting like this, yeah, you kind of have to. So I really don't know what to think. I blame Edmonton. Like, if I was to put the blame on this situation, I would probably put it 60% on Edmonton, 20% on Puljujarvi, 20% on his agent. Because sometimes players' agents are the catalyst for their smug attitude, right? But yeah, I put the majority of this on Edmonton for how they were handling him. But from some of the stuff that's been coming out, like I don't, unless it's from a verified source like David Staples or Elliot Freeman, I just take everything else with a grain of salt. But I've been reading somewhere that Puljujarvi was demanding top 6 minutes. I was reading that he's a cancer in the locker room, which I completely don't agree with. And I've been reading that he's upset because he was stuck with Milan Lucic for the majority of his career, which he was. Let's be honest, he was playing with Lucic, but I don't. I feel upset a little bit because we have this new regime. We have a new management group in place. There's a renewed sense, dare I say it, there is a renewed sense of optimism going into this season. Especially for me, and I want Puljujarvi to give these new guys a chance. It's a new regime. You don't know what can happen. Maybe under these new guys, you light up the league and you increase your trade value. But and that's the thing. It's all about increasing his trade value. Sitting and playing in Europe with this, I'm not playing for you. You're going to be forced to trade me attitude isn't going to raise his trade value. In fact, it's going to make teams want to go away from you. It's not going to make a team go, yeah, we'll take you. It's going to make them go, nah, not on my club. No. Um, I really wish you would give these new guys a chance because you don't know what's going to happen. Like, this is a big what if scenario. We know he's going to sit out. He's sitting out. Fine, whatever. Sit out. We don't care. We don't need you. If you're going to act like this, stay. Just stay in Europe. Be happy. Do things. Um, but and that's another thing. I was reading somewhere that he left his house at the age of 13 years old. Unless you're running away from, like, I don't know. Um, yeah, the second point on this article. If nothing else, Puljujarvi's comments here have somewhat soured Oilers fans on the player. The vast majority had been on the fence, but this kind of statement angers a fan base. Exactly. A lot of what I'm seeing on Twitter, they're ripping into Jesse because of what he said. If he didn't say this, or if this quote didn't come out and be known to us, we'd probably be going, well, I can kind of understand where he's coming from. But this just makes him look like an entitled player who thinks that he should get what he wants because it's what he wants. And as I said, it's not going to happen. If he wants to play in Europe, absolutely go play in Europe. We don't care. We can survive without you. We have McDavid and Drysdale. You're a footnote if you want. If you want to be like we don't. I just I blame Edmonton for how they handled him. I think they didn't do it well with his development, but with what he's saying right now, it's also partially his fault. And the agent hasn't helped with him constantly flipping back and forth between, oh, Puljujarvi said he wanted to play in Europe, now he's saying he'll play in Edmonton, okay, now he's back to playing in Europe. Like, it's just a bad situation all the way through, and uh, yeah, it's gotten to the point where, like, if this is the way that this saga is going to end, it is a disappointing end for it. It really is. I can't believe that Puljujarvi is saying this, is saying this kind of thing now. I would have liked for him to at least give these new guys a chance. And like I said, he's at the end of his contract. He's an RFA. We hold his rights. And no team can, as far as I know, and I don't really know how RFAs versus UFAs work. I think RFAs you have to ask the team to look into it. Otherwise, you have to offer sheet them. Um, it's just I don't get it. This is a player who had so much potential, and yeah, like I said, his development was absolutely. The Oilers tried their best, their absolute best, to ruin his development. But based on what I'm reading, if some of this stuff is true, I can see why. Like him demanding to play in the NHL, him demanding to play top 6 minutes, or something like that, or equivalent of. I don't know. All I know is that he did get a shot with McDavid. He got a shot with Draisaitl. He got a shot with Nugent Hopkins. It rarely worked out. I do know that he was saddled with Lucic for for most of the time he was in the NHL, and I still like Milan, but let's be honest, when you're playing with Lucic, you're not there to get skill. You're there to grind it out. Um, Playing with Lucic, it doesn't matter who the center was because the center was usually Kyle Brodziak or Ryan Nugent Hopkins themselves. But when you're playing with Lucic, you're not showcasing your skill. You're just gonna grind it out because Lucic couldn't make a pass, couldn't do anything skill wise over the past couple seasons. Um, but even when he was playing with skilled players, like it rarely worked out. And don't get me wrong, there were flashes of his potential. There were times where he would make a nifty pass or he would wire a shot on a one timer. I actually remember one of the goals he scored. It was last season, not the 18-19, but the 17-18. The Oilers were in Detroit, and Ryan Strome is coming down the. I think it was coming down the. I have the video on my phone, I think, but he was coming down the right wing. Puljujarvi's on the left side, and Strome passes it to Puljujarvi, and Puljujarvi just wires it in that one timer right off the left half hole, just wires it past. I think it was either Peter Mrazek or Jimmy Howard who was in net for Detroit. Puljujarvi has had some. There have been flashes of his talents, but whether it be his demands, who he was playing with, or what have you, it just never worked out. And with what he's saying now, it paints him in a bad light, and that's ultimately what it's doing. He's ruining his own image. He's not being the macho man. He's not proving anything. He is ruining his image. And as a hockey player, that's the one thing you don't want to do. You don't want to be the guy that grandstands in front of a GM saying, I want this, I want that, because it doesn't make you look good. It makes you look bad. And that's what Puljujarvi is doing. He is making himself look bad. And what's upsetting, I think what really is sad about this, is that either Puljujarvi doesn't know it, or either Puljujarvi knows it and just doesn't care because he thinks he'll get his way, or even worse, no one's told him this is what's happening. No one has said to him, "Look, Jesse, you need to stop this because it's ruining your image." No one has told him that, and if they have, he's blatantly ignoring their advice. So I'm gonna end this video because it's running up on a half an hour. Well, actually, it's already at 31 minutes and 10 seconds. But final thoughts. Yeah, if he wants to play in Europe, let him. We hold his rights. We're not going to do anything until we get something, of fair value. And the problem with Puljujarvi is doing this isn't going to expedite his departure. It really isn't. It's not going to make us go, oh, well, we got to get rid of him faster. No, it's not going to happen. So, Jesse, I hope you enjoy Europe. I really hope you think that this is going to, if you think this is going to work out for you, more power to you, but it's not. And I'm sorry it didn't work out between us. There is potential there. There is a potential for a great player, but I'm sorry that Edmonton skirted your development as best as they can. So that'll be it for me. Next video I make, don't know what I'm going to do. Probably just kind of talk about training camp or give a grade of the off season. But yeah. Oh, poor Jesse. We could have had something, man. I'm sorry it didn't work out. But that's it for me. Thank you guys for watching. Click like if you guys liked the video. Subscribe if you guys want to tell all your friends. All that good stuff. Yada, yada, yada. And yeah, so I'll see you in the next video. Bye.